Hi, everybody. My name is Sandy Carter, and I'm Amazon Web Services Vice President for Worldwide Public Sector Partners, Startup, and Programs. Woof, that's a long title, right? I am so happy that you're joining us here today in this new virtual world. And I am really excited about this session. There are two main reasons that I'm really excited about it. First, I have two amazing speakers with me. So I'll have Yvonne Hodge, who is the Senior Vice President for Enterprise Business Transformation from Lockheed Martin, and Wendy Pfeiffer, the CIO of Nutanix, who will join me. So you're going to get a triple play with some amazing lessons learned. And the second reason I'm really excited about this session is that it's not on technology. Now, don't get me wrong. I love technology. I'm probably the biggest geek girl you'll know, but this session is about leadership. And I think right now, in particular, in the new normal, this is a great session. I was speaking with a colleague of mine, Jeremiah Owang. He is an industry analyst. And we were just talking about everything that's going on today. And, it really started at the beginning of the year with the climate issue. And then it moved to the pandemic, the recession, the racial crisis, and political unrest, and it just kept going. And here in Seattle, we even had these killer bees that entered the scene at one time or another. And that, I think, makes this time very unique for leaders. We have never experienced one crisis on the top of another crisis. It's never been so many things on top of so many things. And hence his visualization of this cake picture that I think really captures what all leaders and teams have been experiencing. Because of that, we really haven't had a blueprint, right? There's no Harvard Business Review article that we can go to and say, okay, give me the playbook. You really have to create your own blueprint. And that's what I wanted this session to be. 3 leaders sharing their blueprint for how they are managing, and hopefully all of us then to take away some core lessons. Now, typically when we do this at reInvent, we're in person and we're interactive. We're doing breakout sessions. Since we don't have that today, I think the second best thing is I have included my Twitter handle, Sandy_Carter. You can find me on LinkedIn or other places. I do want this to be a two-way dialogue. I'm going to share some of my best practices. Yvonne will share hers and Wendy will share hers. And then I want you guys to interact with us as well so that we can hear your ideas, and together we'll be better together. Now, as I was thinking about what's going on, diversity really matters now like never before. In fact, if you look at this result from McKinsey, they found that having female leadership really makes a difference in a company's business outcomes. But it's not just about diversity in terms of gender, it's diversity overall. Diversity right now is driving innovation and driving business outcomes like never it has before. In fact, if you think about what CEOs need right now, they need creativity, they need openness, and they need innovation and disruption to kind of pivot where they need to go. And that's where I think this study is so fascinating. 59% increase in all 3 of those when you have diversity inside of your community. And so it's by no mistake that I've got 3 amazing leaders who represent diversity in different ways. Diversity of thought and diversity, I'm saying, we can't even see, or you can't even see from me, but we all have different perspectives. Now, another thing that I did as I was looking at this session for you, I wanted to make it really valuable for you, is I started reading tons of articles and fast published books that came out during this time to say, what are the most successful characteristics in the new normal for a leader? And of course, leadership came out at the top. It's very needed. Empathy, empathy for your peers, for your team, for your boss, for your customers and your partners. It's really come up on the scale. Obviously, customer obsession, because it is how you pivot. I have this great story about a restaurant here in Seattle. It's fine dining. My husband and I love to go there. And they pivoted during the pandemic because they had to. So again, imagine white tablecloths, violin music playing, very romantic. And they pivoted to takeout, doing Zoom concerts, trying to create an experience, but different, pivot. And so I think if you're customer obsessed, you can do that. And loving change. I mean, how many times have we changed and collaborated virtually, of course, learning how to do that with a Chime meeting, a Zoom meeting, or whatever your virtual platform of choice is. So based on those characteristics and thinking through what I have been doing that I think has been successful, I wanted to share three. I love threes. It's easy to remember. Three things that I've learned during the pandemic. And again, I'm hoping that you're going to be interactive with me. So my three lessons learned are: one, focus on a North Star for your team. Two, hashtag take care of the team, something that I started with my team. And then finally, pivot the pivot. Now, I'm very organized. And so what I had to do too is those three lessons, I went back and I categorized those key success criteria that I got from reading all that, doing all that research. I sorted them under these three. So of course, North Star, we're going to talk about that customer obsession and loving change. Under take care of the team, that empathy and that leadership. And then under pivot the pivot, that collaboration too. Okay, so let's get going. I'm going to go through those three. And then, of course, we're going to see Yvonne and Wendy pop in as well to provide their insight as we go through this. So we're going to start first with the North Star. And I want you to imagine with me that you went to Moab and that we're in the Arches National Park. And at midnight, it's dark. I just did this, by the way. And you lay down and you look up and you can see all the stars. Because it's so dark, the North Star shines extra bright. And of course, as I was on vacation, I was thinking about this. You know, the darkness made the star brighter and more needed, because in order to get to the place where we were going to watch the stars, we needed to be able to see where we were headed and going. And I think that that's why the North Star right now is so important as a leader. The crisis and the cake that I showed you earlier has many things that in some cases have created a little darkness. And so that vision, that direction that you set for the team is more important now and more needed now than ever before. One of the reports that we also got from McKinsey showed that 90% of leaders believe that this crisis will fundamentally change what we do for the next 5 years. 5 years. So that vision that you're going to set for your team, that North Star, it can't be short term. It's got to be something that stands the test of time. And so for me, that North Star is about customer obsession. I know that it is a leadership principle of Amazon and many companies out there. Many of my partners as well use customer obsession. It is critical at this time as a North Star because it enables you to change as you're going to need to change throughout the next 4 or 5 years. Now, what makes it so special? You may be saying, well, I'm customer focused or I'm customer driven. But I am really talking about obsession. So go back to my story about the restaurant. They were customer obsessed. Like they really wanted to understand what their customers needed. And then they were able to change in order to deliver that. I have a friend who runs a wedding. She plans amazing, extravagant weddings in person, pivoted to doing virtual weddings. So that's what I'm talking about. Not customer focused with a couple of research papers or customer driven with a couple of banners up on your wall, being truly customer obsessed. And I love this story. This is the story of True Jerky, who started with a Kickstarter campaign. And they were very customer obsessed. Now, what makes me say that? Well, they got some feedback on the jerky. Everybody loved the way it tasted, but it got stuck in your teeth. And so, as many companies do to innovate, they started with the product. Let's change the flavors, the consistency. But people came back and said, we just don't like it as much as the original. And so they decided, let's innovate. Let's be obsessed with our customers, solve their problem by innovating and including dental floss in every package. Wow, what a breakthrough idea. What a change that they made, not to the product, but to the customer experience. It's an example of a non-tech company that has done that change. So, how do we do it at Amazon? It is one of our leadership principles, and it has shown more brightly, actually, like the North Star at the Moab National Park. We start by working backwards from the customer. And when the customer changes because of COVID or anything else, we change too. We change with the customer. We don't set it and leave it. We change with the customer, always thinking about what their needs are. I've given you several examples here that are not even tech, where companies, partners, customers are doing that exact same thing, working backwards from the customer. Now at Amazon, of course, we have to put mechanisms behind all of that too. So for me, my North Star with my team is we write a press release. Yes, I know most of you write a press release after you do something different. We write it first because it allows us to have a succinct view of our ideas. And you know what Mark Twain said, I would have written a shorter book had I had more time. So you've got to have customer quotes in there. So you already have to have talked to your customers. It's got to be succinct and meaningful in solving a problem. We complement that with a set of FAQs, or frequently asked questions. What does that do? Well, that helps you to really dive deep and understand what that change might be and what the implications are to you. You know, when I came into Amazon, I thought, ooh, I can do this. I'll make up my own questions. But of course, Amazon has a set of questions that you must answer. And they're really great questions. They're ones like, what would your customers say if you're having lunch and they were like, this is the best new thing you've ever done? Or you were, you know, at night having drinks together and they were sharing some of their challenges. We've actually completely changed our ideas based on that feedback. So for me, the first thing is have a North Star, something that shines brightly even through the darkness, but something that will last, that will stand the test of that change that is coming. I personally like that customer obsession because it enables you to do that, but I'd love to hear what yours is as well. So the second lesson I learned is hashtag take care of the team. Now, I have always loved my team. I have to tell you that right now, though, I think I have the best team like ever, hands down, bar none, amazing team. But it doesn't just happen. You know, you really have to focus on the team, and you may get it right and you may not. And especially right now, if you looked at this factoid, it shows that everybody right now is logging in 3 hours more a day than they did before we started working from home. So people aren't lazing around drinking margaritas. They're working harder, which means that you as a leader have to work harder too. So employees at this time need trust. They need compassion. You don't need to know where they are at every time. And you as a leader, you need to be present even though you're far away. I live in Seattle. A lot of my team is in Austin, Texas, Washington, D.C., London, Singapore. But I try to be present with them, even though I am distant at this point in time. So we've done a couple of things that I really like. Turn off the always on. I started this no meetings day almost by mistake. I think that's when some of the best ideas happen. And the team loved it. A day when they don't have to have meetings all day long. Doesn't that sound great? I know, right? And it gives them time to get a break, maybe have a longer lunch and think and innovate. We do virtual water coolers where we get together just to chit chat. What's going on for your holiday plans? What's going on? What did you make last night? Because that's a challenge. And we've done some fun virtual events. I want to share some of them with you. So we did Step Away from Work. We had a team, an amazing team, who put together a Be Active challenge. You know, getting people up and moving, and we tracked it, and we had a really fun contest for 4 weeks. I love the team who pulled this together, and I love the results that we saw from it as well. We also did some incredible work life being intertwined. I've always said that you never could separate work from your life, from your personal life, but today it's even more so. So we did a virtual wine tasting. Ping me if you want to know more about that. We brought families in and we did Meet the Farm Animals. So we had all the little people on the phone, and I even had my daughters who were a little bit older than that, but they loved it. We did dress up. You can see all the funny costumes here. We did a photography class, a singing class. We've just had fun together. How are you embedding fun in what you're doing to take care of your team as well? And then we've been doing these daily stand-ups. You know, you don't realize, you walk past someone in the hallway or you're talking to them at the water cooler. Those conversations are impactful and powerful. So we did this virtual stand up. We asked people to share what they're doing, what they're working on, what they're proud about, where are their roadblocks. And it's really helped us to move forward and to kind of keep some of that momentum like we would have in the real world as well. Those are just some of the things that we've done. Again, I would love to hear what you're doing too. And in fact, I don't want you to forget about yourself either, especially as a leader. This is another one of those pictures that I took from my last vacation. I was in Bryce Canyon. Take a vacation. It was great to get away. And I think I set a really good example for my team because I didn't do hardly any email. Take your lunch. We have time set aside in the calendar. We don't book over it. Make sure that you're exercising, meditating, and just taking care of yourself too. As a leader, that is crucial. So I know that we have some other great examples of leadership, and I would like to turn the baton over now to Yvonne Hodge to share some of her best practices. Yvonne, take it away.
Thank you, Sandy, and thank you to the AWS team for the invitation. It's a real honor to speak to you today. My name is Yvonne Hodge. I am the Senior Vice President at Lockheed Martin, responsible for enterprise business transformation. Now, what does that mean? Well, let me tell you a little bit about my team, who I am very proud of. We have the responsibility for the digital transformation for the corporation. That involves the Chief Information Officer for Lockheed Martin actually reports into my organization. So think of IT in this sense as digital enablement. So as we talk about the capabilities of a great company like AWS, the cloud capabilities are a digital enabler, which is really important to us. In addition to that, the Chief Data Officer for the company also is in my organization. So data as a strategic asset, key imperative for us as Lockheed Martin, and probably to many of the businesses that are listening to me today. Also in my team, we have the responsibility, which I'm really proud of this is recent, of the business process transformation. So think about it as the work streams, how your processes interconnect and integrate in order to deliver capabilities to our customers. In my case, it's missions for the military, for NASA, and some commercial companies across the world. That's important in terms of the process innovation capability that we deliver. And that is critical to the mission success of Lockheed Martin in dealing with our customer set. So that's also in my organization, which I'm proud of. Also, we have responsibility in my team for the business continuity, which gets really into this topic that we're talking about, the new normal, as it relates to the pandemic. So the business continuity piece is really facilitating across the corporation with a lot of data, which was critical and still is critical because we are still in the pandemic, unfortunately, and many of you know. Also, I should take a moment to say that I hope all of you are safe and your families are safe and your teams are safe. That's important to me, and I know it's important to the executive leadership across many companies and to people across the world. These are different times, and it's important that we collaborate and learn from each other to deal with this pandemic. And that's why I think it's important, and really I'm happy to be talking to you today. So just I'm going to talk a little bit about how we responded and are responding, because we're still on this journey with the pandemic, but I want you to think about it from this perspective as leaders. So as a senior vice president, we're talking about things associated with Lockheed Martin, making sure that we're handling things for our customers, our communities, our employees. All of that's extremely important. And it was very, very great. It was great that the transformational journey that we were on in Lockheed Martin, we actually accelerated capabilities that we were already working. And that is why I must say I am very proud of how we responded to the pandemic for our customers, for our suppliers, as well as definitely our employees. It's important that we care for the people. And I know all of you are doing that, but let me just reinforce that. Think about that we're managing diverse teams and we're in unprecedented times. And it's important that our people know we care about their personal situation. Now, we have 115,000 employees across Lockheed Martin. Many of you have as many, if maybe more. But even for the smaller business, every employee, every individual's situation is important. And it's important that we let them know that. We rallied our teams that let them know that we care about the mission for our customers, and we kept that in front of them in addition to making sure they knew we cared about them. We cared about our people's physical safety. I mean, I have my mask here. I have gloves. We provided all this kind of PPE capabilities and technology to our people. They walk around the buildings if they were able to come in, and we also allowed them the technology associated with that if they couldn't come in because of personal situations at home. And that's the kind of agility, we talk about agile, that's the kind of agility that as a leader you have to think about, is that everybody's situation is different. So we wanted to put in standard processes that could be tailored for an individual situation. I thought it was really important even when school started that, I'm a single mom. And so I had to raise my daughter by myself for the most part. And it was important to me for my employees to know that I would be sensitive to their situations as it related to the education of their children. That's so important. I mean, so many of our people were stressed about that, whether they were male or female, fathers and mothers, stressed about that. So we wanted to make sure that we were giving them flexibility, maybe discounted daycare, different ideas that we at the senior executive level of this corporation, my corporation, Lockheed Martin, probably, and hopefully many of you, we've had those kind of very important, sensitive conversations. I mentioned before, we still focused on the mission of our customers. You don't want to lose focus on your customers. That's important. And we have a strong sense of commitment within Lockheed Martin for our customers' missions. So we prioritized, we worked with them, we kept the communication, we used technology to make sure we were still collaborating. Even when there were cancellations of different road shows or maybe where we were supposed to have customer visits, we used the technology to bring the technology to our customers in order for them to see that we were still making progress on the major milestones for their programs. And we acted boldly with empathy. And I mean that sincerely. You have to be bold associated with how you show that you care about your teams. And I think that that becomes so important even after we get over this pandemic, because we will get through this. We will get through this together. But you want to make sure that you keep empathy in front of your employees, because there's going to be residual situations that aren't predicted. And so that's going to be very important. So think about this. The future of work is different. We talked about the new normal in this quick conversation together, but think about the new paradigms, because typically when you talk about new paradigms, you're talking about how technology is changing the way we need to work. That technology is going to be critical to the new normal, so to speak, because it will advance you to be more competitive if you leverage it consistently. And so this has really been, I'm just really thrilled to talk to you today. And now I will turn it back to Sandy. Everybody take care.
Okay, so now we're headed into the last section, section 3, Pivot the Pivot. I think this one is really important because it really involves how you get to some of those great ideas. I love this book written by a professor at Stanford University, Amy, I know her, and she did some research based on great innovators. So Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, even Steve Jobs when he was alive, and found that they ask hundreds of questions a day. She got really curious about that. And so she went to some research and found that kids, and if you have them, you know this, they ask hundreds of questions a day. But we as adults really only ask about 10 questions a day. So we need to be more curious. We need to open up, especially right now. We need to ask more questions. I love this example from AWS. This is our Deep Racer. It's a race car. It's 1/18th the size of a real race car with IoT sensors and machine learning around it. But I think what's important here is how we got to create Deep Racer. The question we asked was, how could we create more machine learning skills? Because our customers were asking us that. If we had stopped at a couple of questions, we would have ended up with more classes, of course, more universities, of course. But we kept pushing and pushing and pushing and asking and asking and asking more questions. And so we found out that if we could get something fun, we could put machine learning in the hands of everyone, not just a certain set, but everyone. Hence, we came up with Deep Racer, which is a fun way to teach machine learning. It's been used by children and colleges and companies to teach machine learning. So keep asking, keep pushing for those questions as well. So as you're looking to pivot the pivot, what questions aren't you asking today? And how do you get your teams to ask more questions? And how do you ask more questions? By creating a safe space so that you can do that and you can collaborate on those great ideas. Now, another woman who has some great ideas, a phenomenal leader, I'm going to now turn it over to Wendy Pfeiffer. Wendy, take it away.
Well, thank you, Sandy. This is such a compelling discussion and so timely. And, as I've been thinking about everything that we're talking about, look, the future of work, which is really what we're focused on these days, the future of work is diverse. It's a diverse future. And one of the reasons that it is diverse is because we are in full-time hybrid mode. Everything is a blend. We are sitting in our home environments using a mix of consumer technology and enterprise technology to do our jobs. And at all times, there are these interruptions, let's say, of personal life into our professional life. A kid walks into the frame, or we're sharing our internet with, our children who are on Zoom calls, or a significant other who is, on a work call. And look, even as some people in some regions return to their offices, we're seeing some other movements as well. One of the most interesting is that a number of folks have discovered that working remotely is actually good for them, and they're choosing to work remotely over the long term. And so even as we consider returning to offices and returning to whatever the new normal will be, we know that for the foreseeable future, we will be operating in hybrid mode. Well, hybrid means having the right interaction design, the right workflow for all of our constituents, everyone who's engaging. We want ultimately for employees to be productive. We want for our colleagues to feel comfortable in interacting with us, and we want to be transcendent in terms of how we collaborate. Well, ultimately, that means that I need to understand and support the person who's connecting to me from a different geography, a different time zone, with different devices and different skill sets and even different comfort levels. And so my thinking needs to be hybrid. It needs to be diverse. It needs to be multifaceted. Interesting. How do I effectively deliver in this mode if I'm single-faceted, single-threaded? I can't. I need to have those diverse viewpoints, those diverse modes. So how do I do that? How do I train for that? Well, from my perspective, look, work, if you think of it like a sport, work has been a series of transitions in the last little while. When the pandemic first started, it was like a sprint. I mean, we were just running all out, trying to pivot and trying to figure out how to work in a new mode. And most of us as leaders, we have skills around that, right? As human beings, we can always deal with something for a short period of time and find a way to make our way through it. But then things have persisted. We are 9 months into this pandemic, and it looks like we are going into several more months of needing to work and think and behave differently. And so it's turned into a marathon. Now, if we were still using our same muscles that we use for sprints for the marathon, if we were still training the same way and fueling and resting the same way, we would never make it. We have to train differently, knowing that we're in a marathon. We have to sustain ourselves and rest and have different coaching and different skill sets. And yet, this hybrid work even pushes more on the boundaries here. Hybrid is not just, two different kinds of running like a sprint versus a marathon is. Hybrid is more like a triathlon or a decathlon. It's multiple sports at once. We need to be good at all of these different modes of work and good at the transitions from one mode to the other. And then we really need different voices speaking into our experience. The best triathletes have a running coach, a swimming coach, a cycling coach, and we need to have that same thing. We need different kinds of expertise, different kinds of viewpoints, all of those things focused on helping our companies and ourselves to be successful. Well, so how do we do that? Well, we need to bring those diverse voices into the conversation. And I can tell you that lately I've been aware of something. For many, many years, as a senior female executive in the technology space, I've been one of a kind in many, many forums. I'm the only person with my viewpoint, with my background and experience who looks like I do, who's sitting there in the meeting, in the conversation, making decisions, providing my viewpoint. And in so many ways now, with things like the Black Lives Matter movement or the Me Too movement, some of the economic hardships that are happening as a result of the pandemic, the huge global shifts we're seeing with global refugee movements and immigration, and all of the political changes that are going on. There are a number of folks who are part of the social discourse, who are showing up in work environments and who are blending these roles. And these folks, they are one of a kind. They're here for the first time. And so as someone who has been in that mode and is used to that role, I'm an example now. And I encourage those of you who have been in this role, being the only one of your kind in leadership, this is your chance to lead, to be the example, to encourage, to lead and show up with humility, with honesty, with care for others. We can do this, and if we can figure out how to honor and enable these diverse viewpoints to support our hybrid future of work, then I think the future is bright for us, and that's the future of work that I hope we all can engage in. So with that, thank you, Sandy, for having me, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, so you've heard from amazing leaders, Yvonne, Wendy, and some great best practices. I want to close with this. Set your North Star. Make sure it includes diversity. Make sure that you're customer obsessed, and make sure that you're embracing change. Finally, start a hashtag Take Care of the Team initiative. Show empathy and courage and set that example for your team. And finally, last but not least, figure out how to pivot the pivot. Ask a lot of questions. It is a triathlon, not a marathon, and I want you to stay curious. Regardless of which of these you maybe try out, what I would say is don't overanalyze it. Pick a couple of things and try it. Your team will tell you, yep, we like it, or no, we don't. I really appreciate your time today. I wanted to say thank you for hanging with us. I'm glad that you're safe and that you're healthy, and I hope that I hear from you soon. Thank you.